On today's Technobabble, the equipment you need for live production.
This is Tech No Babble, your weekly source for church video and graphics news, perspectives, tips, and tricks. And now here's your host, Paul Clifford.
Hi, and welcome again to another episode of Technobabble. This is the show where every week I help you with church video and graphic design. My name is Paul Allen Clifford. So we've recently started a series about live production, iMag, production for recording, and also live streaming. So last week we talked all about the differences between different audiences and the kind of live production you could be doing. This week, let's just have an overview of the equipment that you'll need. When it comes to live production, there are certain things that really are absolute requirements. If you're doing video, which is what we're talking about, first, let's talk about the camera. A lot of churches are going to want to be very cheap when it comes to cameras, and I want to encourage you not to. While a professional can get awesome results with very inexpensive equipment, someone who's a volunteer, who's not doing this for a living, they're not going to have nearly the results that a professional would. So it's actually better if you start with better equipment and then work your way down, as opposed to the intuitive way, which would be start with cheaper equipment and work your way up. So let's start with cameras. At least 2, 3, or 4 are really nice. My church started with 2, and then we've just worked our way up. Every new building we've added a camera. So that's something that you really cannot do without. Along those lines, you need support of some sort. Now, we could be talking about tripods, we could be talking about pedestals. Some cameras may need a shoulder rig or a monopod, or they may even just sit on your shoulder. But it's certainly the case that you're going to get better shots with a supported camera than you are with a handheld camera. That's just the way that it is. So make sure that you budget some money for that, and it's probably more than you think, but trust me, it's worth it. Bad tripods will make great cameras look horrible. So spend the right money and get that taken care of. Next are a few controlling items that you can use to make your cameras better. So if you have studio quality cameras, there are things called CCUs, camera control units, that handle the white balance, the brightness and contrast, things like that. So you can use them to open up the iris, you can use them to increase the gain, etc. In fact, sometimes you'll need to paint a shot. And what I mean by that is it'll be a little too red, and there's a dial that you can use on many CCUs to turn that down just a little bit. So CCUs are important, but probably even more important, especially for just about any camera, is zoom and focus controls. So when we're shooting live with live events, we don't want to depend on autofocus, because it often chooses the wrong thing. So what professional camera operators do is, before they get a shot, they zoom in all the way, they focus, and then they zoom out to compose their shots. That's done very easily with 2 controls, one in one hand, one in the other. Zoom all the way, focus, zoom out, done. Nice and fast. If you leave those out of your system, it's going to be much more difficult. One of our cameras at church right now, we don't have zoom and focus control on it, and I can run it. It's just not fun. Like, it's really hard to get any sort of shot, and a shot with movement, Again, I can do it, it's just not fun, and a lot of times I don't get the best results. So those controllers are, if they're not essential, they're right a hair below essential. So make sure when you're buying cameras, you buy cameras that can use zoom and focus controllers, and you buy the zoom and focus controllers. Next, of course, we're going to need lighting. Even in my small studio here, I have lighting. Now I'm in a room in my house, but yet I have lighting. I have a ceiling fan up here that's directing here to flatten out the light. I have a key light over to my right, your left, a fill light to your left, my right, and a backlight or a hair light right behind me on my desk. So lighting is very important because cameras are not as good at the subtle differences between dark and light. So we fill in by adding a little bit more light wherever we want it. Also sound. You've probably heard this a million times. You're watching a YouTube video and the sound is atrocious. It might be the case that the sound needs a better microphone. It might be the case that you need to mix the sound better, etc. But whatever it is, make sure you have good sound. When you have multiple cameras, you're going to need this next item, and that is a video switcher. Now, there are inexpensive video switchers that are around $1,000, and some people are thinking, $1,000, that's incredible. Really nice video switchers cost $500,000. So it's all a range, and I want you to consider how you can get the best video switcher with a little room to grow that you can, so that you can seamlessly switch between shots, which is, by the way, why it's called a switcher and not a mixer. A mixer mixes things like mixing audio. A switcher switches things like switching video shots. So a video switcher. Next, comms. Now this is another thing that people often overlook. They try and skimp or get by with two-way radios or hand signals. Trust me, I've done all that. Just get at least something that will enable the director or the technical director to talk to the camera people, because hand signals and two-way radios really don't cut it. What you really want are professional communication devices. Clearcom makes one, Telex makes another. There's many brands out there, so that you can do full duplex communication. So if one person is talkative, you can interrupt them. Two-way radios do not have that ability, and two-way radios are not great for female voices because they tend to cut off the high end. So if someone has a mid-range voice, you can usually make it out. But someone that has a higher voice, typically a more female thing, but not always, they're going to be less intelligible because the high end of the voice is cut off, especially when you're trying to whisper during a sermon or something like that. Next, a computer or character generator to put text on the screen. You probably have ProPresenter, my personal favorite, or Proclaim, another one of my favorites, or Easy Worship, or etc., etc., etc. That's what I'm talking about, but you need to make sure that you can get that into the switcher so that you can include that in the shot. Finally, why are you doing video? Because if you're doing video, you may be doing IMAG, in which case you need displays to show it on, projectors, televisions, etc. Or maybe you're recording things, in which case you need a recorder. Or maybe you're live streaming, in which case you need an encoder, internet service, and a live streaming host. So determine which you're doing, and that will inform which of those three, or maybe all, that you get in your situation. So as you can tell, there's a lot of equipment that you need for live production, but trust me, it's so much better to record multiple cameras at the same time. It's so much better to switch and record the output than to record multiple cameras. That's what I meant to say. And edit those in post. Editing a live event is a very labor-intensive process. There's some software that makes it easier, but some not so much. Well, I hope that helped you. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my email newsletter at trinitydigitalmedia.com/gifts, GIFTS, and pick up a church tech gift of your choosing there. Also head over to my store, trinitydigitalmedia.com/store, for church tech training resources. And if you have any questions, just leave them below the video or head over to trinitydigitalmedia.com and you can leave it under any of those blog posts. Till next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford with trinitydigitalmedia.com. Go out and change eternity.